be able to go back to the continent and be treated like a human.
And everything that they learned and were taught about Africa were lies.
There is a confession hiding in the comment section of almost every video from IShowSpeed's African tour. It shows up over and over again, written by different people in different ways, but always saying the same thing. I did not know Africa was like this. Some people admit they thought the whole continent was nothing but mud huts. Those comments are not mean. They are not trying to be rude. They are honest. There are millions of young Americans realizing in real time that the images they grew up with, the ones from movies and news and textbooks, were never the full story. And the person showing them the truth? A 21-year-old kid from Ohio who screams at video games for a living. The tour kicks off in Angola, and from the very first moment, it is absolute madness. Picture this. Speed steps off the plane, and within hours, he is surrounded by hundreds of kids in the streets of Rwanda. They are screaming his name. They are pulling him in to pick up soccer games. He is laughing, running, completely overwhelmed in the best way possible. This is not a scripted meet and greet. This is raw, real, uncontrollable energy. And for the people watching at home, many of whom have never seen an African city before, their jaws drop. They see highways. They see skyscrapers. They see kids with smartphones recording videos just like kids anywhere else. Comments start flooding the chat. Wait, this is Africa? I thought it was all jungles. I did not know cities like this existed. Right there in the first few days, the old picture in their heads starts cracking. Now fast forward to South Africa. This is where things get absolutely bonkers. Speed decides he wants to race a cheetah. Yes, a real cheetah, the fastest land animal on Earth. They bring out this sleek, muscular cat, and Speed gets down in a starting pose. The cheetah looks at him, the handler says go, and before Speed can even move, the cheetah lunges forward and scratches his leg. Just a warning shot. The cat could have taken him down easily, but it just wanted to let him know who was boss. Speed jumps back, yelling, and millions of people lose it laughing. But he does not stop there. Later that same day, he climbs into a cage and drops into the ocean surrounded by great white sharks. Huge, terrifying predators glide past the bars inches from his face. He is screaming, the sharks are circling, and viewers are gripping their phones like they're in the water too. This is not your average vacation. Have you ever seen something that made you completely rethink a place? Because that is what keeps happening over and over again. The tour rolls into Botswana, and Speed visits a diamond mine. Not a small operation, a massive industrial mine where workers pull glittering rocks out of the earth. He holds a raw diamond in his hand, this incredible gem that will eventually end up in jewelry stores halfway across the world. And then he asks a question that stops people cold. Why can't I buy diamonds here? Why do they all get shipped out? It's a simple question from a 21-year-old, but it hits on something huge, the history of resources leaving Africa while the people who live there see little of the profit. Viewers start thinking, they start asking their own questions, and the chat explodes with people discussing things they never discussed before. Now picture Kenya. If one stop on this tour captures the insanity, this is it. Speed lands in Nairobi, and within hours, the city loses its mind. Crowds gather everywhere, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. They chase his car through the streets. They surround hotels. They climb on rooftops just to catch a glimpse. At one point, the convoy cannot even move because people are packed so tight. It is chaos, pure, beautiful, terrifying chaos. And Speed is right in the middle of it, live streaming everything. The numbers are mind-blowing. Over 8 million people watch at the same time, the biggest audience of the entire tour. In 3 days, the Kenya stop generates 93 billion online impressions. Let that number sit in your brain for a second. 93 billion. That is more than 10 times the entire population of the planet. Every scroll, every share, every view adds up to something massive. Why does Kenya explode like this? Because the people there see themselves in the stream. Speed hops on a matatu, one of those wild, colorful public buses covered in art and blasting music. He squeezes in with locals, hanging out the window, waving at everyone. He stops at street food stalls and tries things he can't even pronounce. He dances with strangers. He laughs with kids. None of it feels fake. Modern cities, young people with dreams, a country on the move. Think about the moments that stick with you, the ones that hit different. For Speed, one of those moments comes in Senegal. He attends the Africa Cup of Nations final, the biggest soccer match on the continent. The stadium is electric. Fans are drumming, singing, waving flags everywhere. Senegal wins, and the place erupts. Speed celebrates with them, swept up in the joy. But then, the next day, he visits Gorée Island. This is the House of Slaves, a memorial to the millions of Africans who were taken from this very spot and shipped across the ocean forever. He walks through the door of no return, the last doorway enslaved people passed through before leaving Africa. And for a long moment, he just stands there, looking at the water. Watching a young Black American man process that history in real time is heavy. Viewers feel it too. Many comment that they never learned this part of history in school. They never stood in that place, even through a screen, and it changes something in them. What would it feel like to meet your own past face to face? That question becomes real in Liberia. Speed meets a man there with the exact same last name, Watkins. They start talking, and it turns out this man's ancestors actually left Ohio, the same state Speed grew up in, generations ago, and moved to Liberia. The connection clicks. He's really my ancestor, Speed says, half joking, but also clearly moved. It's a moment that resonates, especially with Black American viewers who have wondered about their own roots. Who came before them? Where did they come from? The idea of finding a piece of your story on the other side of the ocean sparks something powerful. Viewers start talking about DNA tests, about planning their own trips, about wanting to see for themselves. Now here's a question. If you could witness history being made without even leaving your house, would you watch? Because that's exactly what happens throughout this tour. In Egypt, Speed gets special permission to film inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. This is not something just anyone can do. He crawls through narrow passages, runs his hands along ancient stone, and stands in chambers built over 4,000 years ago. Millions watch live as he explores one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. In Rwanda, he treks through volcanoes to see mountain gorillas up close. These massive, gentle creatures sit feet away, munching leaves and looking right at the camera. Viewers hold their breath. In Ethiopia, he explores rock-hewn churches carved directly into the ground centuries ago. Each stop peels back another layer and shows another piece of a continent too vast and diverse to fit into any simple story. Of course, not everything is smooth. In Algeria, fans at a football stadium start throwing bottles and the stream cuts out abruptly for safety. In Kenya, the crowds get so intense that a member of Speed's team suffers a serious back injury during a stunt. Speed himself looks scared at times, surrounded by too many people, unable to move. But even the rough parts add to the story. They prove this is real. This is not a polished production where everything goes perfectly. This is life happening in real time, unpredictable and unfiltered. Now think about the people who watch this every day. Millions of them are young Americans who have never left their own state, let alone the country. They have grown up on movies and news that mostly show one side of Africa: conflict, poverty, wildlife, safari. Those images get repeated so often they become the only images. Then along comes this guy they already trust, this guy they watch play video games and act ridiculous, and he takes them somewhere completely different. He shows them cities that never sleep. He shows them technology and innovation. He shows them art, music, food, and fashion. He shows them people living their lives, laughing, working, dreaming, just like anyone, anywhere. And the old images start fading. New ones take their place. As the tour heads towards its end, the final stop is Ghana, and Ghana goes all out. Speed receives an official Ghanaian passport, a symbolic honor usually reserved for members of the African diaspora who connect deeply with the country. He tours Independence Square, a massive memorial to freedom. He visits the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, honoring the man who led Ghana to independence. Crowds line the streets wherever he goes, and at the airport, the welcome is so overwhelming, it takes forever just to get through. The singer Akon, who has worked on development projects across Africa, thanks Speed publicly for showing the world what the continent truly is. So think about everything that happened in those 28 days. 20 countries, millions of live viewers, billions of online impressions. A young man from Ohio racing cheetahs, dodging hippos, exploring pyramids, and dancing in the streets. But more than that, millions of people back home seeing Africa for the first time. The Africa that has always been there, waiting for the world to pay attention. Pretty wild, right?